Everyone keeps asking, is the Rhode Island housing market about to crash? You see the headlines, the charts, and some people panicking, especially throughout the entire country. But if you actually dig deeper and look what's happening on a hyper-local level, specifically Rhode Island real estate, you start to see a very different story, and that points to a crash very unlikely of actually happening. So in this video, I'm going to break down exactly why. So why do people actually think a crash is coming? Well, people look at news headlines and they're usually national headlines a lot of the times. And while it is true that in some markets throughout the country, and actually quite a few markets, home sellers outnumber home buyers. And when this happens, it means that there's more supply than there is demand, and that usually causes prices to come down because the buyers are in the driver's seat. Think about it this way. If you had a home that you were about to sell, and there were also 5 other homes on your street, and there might be a pool of 3 buyers that might want to move to that street, well, guess what? You're competing with all those other homes to get those buyers, and those buyers are in the driver's seat because there's more supply than there is demand. Now, if there was only 1 home for sale on the street, but there was 10 buyers that wanted to move there, now all of a sudden you have more demand than there is supply, and that causes prices to typically go up. So this is a trend that is pushing in the direction of a housing crash. And even locally in Rhode Island, you can see the home sales numbers, like the actual numbers of transactions, dropping. We are down in numbers year over year for the amount of transactions. And interest rates are ticking up and up and up, which tend to slow the market down. So you might be saying, you're building a pretty good case for a housing market crash. And you might be connecting this to what happened in 2008. But in my opinion, this market is completely different. In 2008, the problem was bad loans. Simply put, people buying homes that they couldn't afford. But today, lending standards are much stricter. Most homeowners that buy are actually in a pretty strong financial position. And I don't think we have a big foreclosure wave building like we did back then. Now, in Rhode Island, we have a very real problem, and that is a lack of inventory. Right now, in Rhode Island, we're sitting at under 2 months of inventory. In fact, the data just came out a month ago, and we were sitting at about 1.4 months of inventory. Just to give you some basic perspective, a balanced real estate market is 6 months of inventory. A seller's market is anything under 6 months of inventory. So we are in a really, really low inventory environment. Now, once you cross over that 6-month mark and you start getting to like 7, 8, 9 months of inventory, well, then you simply have more supply than you do demand. And that's when you start getting into a buyer's market. But right now in Rhode Island, as you can see, the inventory is super low. So to support the idea of having a Rhode Island housing market crash, you would have to see a lot more supply than there was demand. And right now we're seeing the exact opposite. And the data supports this. Even with fewer transactions happening, prices are still rising. Year over year, prices in Rhode Island are up about 4%. Demand still exists. Supply is just too low. So in my opinion, this is what's actually happening. This isn't a market crash. It's simply a shift. Buyers pulled back because interest rates started to rise and they wanted to wait it out on the sidelines and see what happened in hopes that rates will continue to pull back again. Sellers are slowly coming back on the market, but they're hesitant because they might have bought a couple years ago. They might have a really attractive interest rate in their house and they don't want to give that up to move into the next house, whether they need to upsize or downsize or they really want to move or can unlock that equity that they built over the past couple of years of homes appreciating. But that interest rate that they have is still really sweet and they don't want to give it up so easily unless rates are coming down a little bit and they can get into something else, causing many homeowners to hesitate putting their homes in the market. But little by little, homeowners are starting to come around to the idea listing in this new environment. And the third shift that I see is sometimes homes take a little bit longer to sell. Now, the reason for that is because some of the buyers are on the sideline. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to sell or you're not going to be able to get really good money for your property. It just means it might take a little bit longer. Gone are the days where you list a house and it's gone in a day, right? It takes a little bit longer and that's normal. It means we're heading towards a healthy, balanced real estate market, which is a win-win for everybody, especially if you as a homeowner are going to go buy your next property. Because before, here's what was happening. You would list your property on the market, you'd get multiple offers, it would go way over asking price, and then you'd have to go try to figure out how to get your next home. And you'd end up in that same boat, doing bidding wars, multiple offers, being stressed out, trying to figure out where you're going to go next. Overall, that's just not a positive environment for anybody. So if we're heading towards a more balanced market, it can be a very good thing for both buyers and sellers, especially considering home prices are not nosediving, they're just simply stabilizing. Now, what would actually need to happen for me to believe that a crash was coming? Now, if you're still skeptical and you're like, hey, I really think a crash is coming, what should I look for if a crash could be coming? Well, here's what I would personally look for. The first thing you would see is a huge spike in home inventory. You're going to start seeing that inventory number go over the 6-month mark. You're going to start seeing 7, 8, 9, 10 months of inventory, like a lot of stuff on the market and not a lot of buyers out there looking at it. And it's going to be really hard to move homes. And that's going to cause sellers to start chopping their prices. And that could lead to a market pullback and lower real estate prices. The second thing is a wave of massive foreclosures. Now, this kind of goes back to this supply and demand theory. If you have a lot more supply than you do demand, then it can alter prices because the buyers have more choices. They can be more picky and they can make lower offers because there's just less competition in the market for that same supply. So if you see a giant wave of foreclosures and that inventory number spike up to high levels, then that's something you should definitely raise an eyebrow at. And the third thing, and this again goes back to supply, is if you see massive job losses, because if you see a lot of job losses, like huge giant numbers of job losses, then people are going to start selling their properties to unlock that equity, pay their bills, pay their credit cards, all that kind of stuff. So if you start to see that in the marketplace, and you start seeing giant waves of job losses and people listing their homes and that inventory number trickling up and up and up and up, well, that's also a red flag to look out for. And right now, we're just not seeing that. So what does this actually mean for you? For buyers, it means that there are actually better opportunities right now than there have been in quite a while. Less competition, more options, and less pressure. For sellers, you can still sell. Home prices are up over 4% year over year, so you didn't lose any of your equity. But pricing, strategy, and picking the right agent matter now more than ever. So if you're trying to figure out if right now is the right time to make a move in Rhode Island and you have questions, definitely reach out to me. I'd love to help you out. My number is down in the description below. My name is Chris Lynch. I'm the team lead of the Alpine Group, and I look forward to connecting with you.